now, and we're set to take you to men's gymnastics, the individual all-around competition. And back in 1986 at the first Goodwill Games in Moscow, the U.S. gymnasts won just one single medal, and that was both the men and the women combined. Well, this year's team has already matched that feat, the men surprising with a silver in last night's team competition. The top gymnasts from each team qualified for today's competition to determine the best all-around gymnast here. Jim Simpson and former U.S. Olympian Tim Daggett will take us through 6 rotations at the Tacoma Dome. Gentlemen.
We welcome you to the Tacoma Dome, where the best gymnasts in the world have gathered to compete for the gold, silver, and bronze medals in the all-around championships of the Goodwill Games. In yesterday's team championships, Valeri Liukin's triple in the floor exercises was just one of the reasons why the Soviets won the gold as expected. Trent Dimas had a near-perfect 9-9 on the high bar, and that was one of the main reasons why the USA won the silver, the first international team championship for the USA since the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, when the Soviets did not compete. And one more word about those team championships. From each of the 8 teams, Tim, they took 2 competitors. They qualified for today's all-around championships. The all-around championships, Tim?
Yeah, what that is, Jim, you basically liken that to track and field, the decathlon. You don't have to stand out on any one of the 6 events. You put all of them together, you add them up, and you have our winner.
And naturally, we have 6 apparatus in effect, but only 2 at any one time. And one of the first 2 we're going to see is the pommel horse.
That's right, and we could not have a better description right here. This is Valentin Mogilny on the pommel horse. Double-leg circles should predominate. He's showing them to us in the flare position, but he's also incorporating a skill called a spindle, where your body is turning in the opposite direction that you're swinging. Most of the gymnasts on the top level are incorporating that skill in their routines.
And it's that kind of performance where once again today we say what we said yesterday for the team championships: the Soviets are favored. Working with us, yet another medal winner from 1984 in that great Olympics for the American gymnastics team. Down to the floor, and Kathy Johnson.
Thanks, Jim. The Soviets certainly dominated the team competition, and it should be the same tonight. The fight will be probably for the bronze medal between the Chinese, the East Germans, and of course the Americans. The Americans had a couple of breaks yesterday. In order to win the bronze medal here, they will have to hit every single routine. So the pressure is on, but they seem ready. They look good in warm-up. We'll just have to see what happens. Back to you, Jim.
There's Vitaly Sherba from Minsk, 18 years old, and he can do this in the European Championships. He was first in the floor exercise.
One of the most explosive gymnasts in the world. This kid is tremendous. He will mount with the same thing we saw from Lee. It's a double layout with a full twist. He was in the stratosphere on that one. Just 18 years old and so composed, as we said about Lee, but I don't think we'll see that mistake that we saw from Lee from this guy. Beautiful double full punch front, 1 1/4. You know, Jim, the thing that's interesting to note here is he's basically doing the same routine that Lee just performed, but everything is a little bit better. Every line is a little bit straighter. Every corner pass looks a little bit more polished.
Which is not surprising. Lee is a junior from China, and Vitaly is a member of the best team in the world of gymnasts.
Definitely the dominant force in gymnastics. Here's where it all changes, though. Watch this, a double layout. Oh, and he rocked it. Oh, incredible. You cannot do any better than that.
You know, we come on here every time, Tim, and we say, and the Soviets are favored again. It only takes a quick look at a man like Sherba to realize why we keep saying that, and the world knows it.
Well, you know, you saw him walking off the floor, and he wasn't even breathing hard. Watch this tumbling pass. A double layout, full twist on the second flip, just a small hop on the landing. But with that level of difficulty, really not that big of a deduction. Here's his second pass. This double full, he's rotating backwards now. Like I said, we'll completely change rotation and flip forward.
And the score for Sherba, 9-8-5-0. Here's Valery Belenky, another Soviet, 20 years old from Baku, and this is one of his best events.
Oh, he is so extended on the pommel horse. Beautiful rhythm, elegant body line. Well, he's run into some problems right off the start. Had a little bit of a form break, you saw from our camera up above. But he's dealt with it quite well. Picked up this routine like there wasn't even a bobble. Nice dismount right through the handstand. And a good landing. But you know, that's going to be very critical. It'll be also very interesting to see what the judges do with that, because there were maybe 2-3 circles where his legs were bending, his feet were coming apart a little bit, and those are deductions, of course.
It was a very un-Soviet-like comment for Valery to make when he admitted that he gets nervous in competition. You'd never know it.
You really couldn't tell, especially at this point in the routine, that he's getting nervous. Flies right up to the handstand, drops down into a back scissor. Beautiful work on the pommel horse there. And an elegant handstand with a full pirouette. A perfect landing.
And a great score, 9.850.
Let's take a look here. I believe we'll see a bit of the deduction. No, it came a little bit early. There's his handstand sequence from another vantage point. The judges really didn't deduct as much as they could have. I'm a little bit surprised, but the rest of his work was so beautiful. I guess they kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt.
Tim, there have been 2 9.850s tonight, one by Belenky of the USSR on the pommel and the other by Sherba of the USSR on the floor exercise. Here is Chris Waller as we move down to the floor exercise. Lance Ringnauld on the pommel horse had a 9.7. There have been 2 9.85s, both by the Soviets, and Chris Waller will try to stack up something here. This is not his best event.
A full in back out, landed very well. Not quite as difficult as we've seen from the Soviets, but an excellent landing. Here is second pass. It's a 1.5 twisting, 1 3/4 somersault. Very difficult, a lot going on in that skill. Chris does that about as well as anybody in the world. Beautiful spindling flare, and there's an unfortunate break. That's going to be about 1/10 of a point. Another one of Chris Waller's trademarks. You know, he really doesn't have the tumbling power that some of the other gymnasts have, but he has a very good look on the floor exercise, and he makes up for a lack of power with some of his transitional elements, like we saw on the flare spindle and his handstand there. He needs to really stick this landing. It's a double back. And a very good landing. That's an excellent start for Chris Waller.
Good start for Chris Waller, and the crowd is totally involved. Was all to the team championships and picked up today where they left off, as we are in the all-around championships. And Chris loves what he did. And why not?
I believe we're looking at his first pass here. This is his opening run, a full twisting double back. You know, not as powerful, as we said, as a double layout with a full twist, but no major deductions. Here, I believe, his second pass, 1.5 twists, 1.5 flips, and a very smooth rollout. Now, this is where Chris basically distances himself from other people, has beautiful work in the corners. That skill, of course, called a flared spindle.
The crowd thought that Chris Waller had done much better than his 9.6, but considering this is not his best event, that's not bad for an all-around. Rotation number 1 is over here in the Tacoma Dome and the all-around championships.
On rotation, and we've been talking for 2 days now about young Vitaly Sherbo, the Soviet. You saw him score a 9.85 on the floor exercise. That's what he did during the first rotation. He's the European champion in that event. We are now about to start the second rotation. Sherbo is on the pommel horse. as is American Chris Waller. So let's take you back to the Tacoma Dome with Jim Simpson and Tim Daggett.
Rotation 2 coming up. We will again see, Tim, the pommel horse, but for the first time in rotation 2, we will see the rings as Belenky and Sherba of the Soviet Union are tied for first, while of China is third, and Ringgold of the USA is fourth. But on to an explanation of the rings and the strength it takes.
That's right, Jim. You need a tremendous amount of strength, and our demonstrator here, one of the strongest, Valery Lyukin, shows us a back kick right to a plant and right down to a cross. You also, however, must mesh this strength with beautiful and graceful swing elements, and he does it well.
There is Lance Ringgold. Remember, at the end of rotation number 1, he was in 4th place. He's on the rings now, needing a good score in yet another event that is not his strength.
But he does start out with a beautiful strength part right here, a back roll right to a cross. That's called a Nazarian. Beautiful. Like you said, Jim, this is not one of Lance's best events, but he does all right here. He'll show us another swing part. That's a Yamawaki to a whippet, and his second strength part. This skill, always a crowd pleaser. Actually gives Lance a little bit of a break. It looks very difficult, but actually is somewhat of a rest skill. Now in the team competition, Lance had a tremendous amount of problem with his dismount, didn't have enough rotation. It's a double layout. Pulls it around, and a small hop on the landing. Yeah, much better today than he did last evening.
And Ringgold is happy with what he has done on the rings. Because remember, there lurks in the future for him the parallel bars and the high bar, and that's where he is strong.
We've seen Lance on 2 events that, like we've said, are not his strengths, but he dealt with both of them very well. 9-7 on the pommel horse, and this should bring a fairly high score. Once again, that skill that looks very difficult, but you can see his expression on his face, actually a rest part for Lance. A little bit of a form deduction in the air on his dismount. This is a double layout. You see his knees spread a little bit bent, and of course the small hop. But overall, a good effort for Lance Ringgold.
And the score for Lance Ringgold, 9-6, gives him a total score of 19.3. On the pommel horse, Vitaly Sherba, one of the 2 leaders, both from the Soviet Union. The other is Belenky.
And he starts off right off the bat with some beautiful flare work, traveling all the way across the horse. Showing us some one pommel work, very extended, always in control. These, of course, the required scissor skills on the pommel horse. Beautiful, right through the handstand, full pirouette. You know, you just keep looking at the Soviets, and you just always have to marvel at how well prepared they are for every situation. There was nothing spectacular for him in that performance. That was exactly what he does probably every day. They're in such tremendous physical shape. He traveled right up to the handstand, breaks into his flares, spindles all the way across the horse. Remember, that spindle is when you turn your body the opposite direction that you're swinging.
A 9-9 for Sherba, and he is clearly in the lead in the all-around at the moment. Here is Valery Belenky, tied with Sherba at the end of rotation 1 for the lead.
Now, what we just saw there, Jim, was a plunge to a press to a handstand. So difficult. That skill, a Maltese and an iron cross. They're just a little bit better, a little bit stronger everywhere.
In a meet a year ago, between the USA and the USSR, this man here, Belenky, won the all-around championship.
Yeah, that was his coming out party, and he plans on staying out at this point, showing us some beautiful work there. A double layout with a full twist. Whoa! Oh, and he held on to it. You know, that really doesn't look that good, but technically there is no deduction written in the code of points that the judge can actually subtract. So it's going to be basically a call on whether or not the judges think that he was so off balance or not. He obviously was, but no deduction in the book. There's an L cross.